Hello, BookTube. Who's up for a nice big mail haul? I noticed over at Thomas's channel, SFF180, I'm just assuming that you all subscribe to him. If you don't, you should. But he is another BookTube channel where you will see a lot of new releases, and he does Mailbag Mondays, and got it was a big Mailbag Monday today, and there must be something in the water, because my own mail shipment was quite big as well, and delivered by a newbie, so it was done in a plastic tub rather than, my normal mailman comes to the door, rings the bell so that we can gossip like a pair of Donegal housewives. But not this time. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, and I think, if I remember correctly, I sort of dug around. I think it ends in a lot of boxes. So let's see what we have here. As the ramparts. The ramparts are gone here, and they're going to build. They're going to reach for the sky again. By Saturday, this whole space will be completely covered with books. Let's see what this. Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Okay, this comes out in June, and this is the new novel by Rachel Cusk. Kudus. Same cover design as Outline and Transit. This is her new book. What I wouldn't give for somebody to review this for Open Letters Review. Perhaps an editor. Perhaps an editor whose name rhymes with Benifer. Anyway, let's see here. A woman writer visits a Europe in flux, where questions of personal and political identity are rising to the surface, and the trauma of change is opening up new possibilities of loss and renewal. Within the rituals of literary culture, Faye finds the human story in disarray and differing attitudes toward the public enactment of the creative persona. I don't have any idea what any of that means. And she begins to identify among the people she meets a tension between truth and representation that causes her to consider questions of acclaim, justice, and the ultimate value of suffering. This is the third in the trilogy that began with Outline. And it takes as its theme the relationship between pain and honor, and investigates the moral nature of success as a precept of both art and living. No mentions of giant prehistoric killer sharks. So I will read this, of course, and I will review it, but only if I can't find somebody better attuned to its world than myself, which would be almost anybody. Even Frida would probably be a better choice to read it than I would be. Right, let's see here. All right, so we started off with a novel that had the word precept in its pub sheet. so let's move on. What is this next one? Okay. This comes out in April. It's from Bloomsbury. It's by Eliza Robertson, who is younger than every article of clothing that I have on my body right now. And it's called Demigods. What's the matter, baby girl? I had a very tired puppy. She's had a lot of activity in the last day. So this is set in both British Columbia and Southern California. Inspired by the myth of Castor and Pollux, this novel begins in July of 1950, when protagonist Willa is 9. Her mother's new boyfriend brings his 2 young sons to Salt Spring Island from their home in Southern California. These boys are gods in Willa's eyes. Tanned and blue-eyed, they leave her feeling vulnerable and mortal from the very start. One brother in particular, Patrick, exerts an unusual hold over her, and then the novel follows them into young adulthood. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds really good. Okay, April 10th. Okay, two novels. So let's move on here. I shouldn't maunder, because we have a lot of books to do here. Let's see what this next one is. Oh my! Oh goodness! Okay, this comes out in early June. And it is Night-Gaunts and Other Stories by Joyce Carol Oates. Supernatural fiction by her, I believe. In the title story of her taut new fiction collection, Joyce Callowes writes, "Life was not of the surface, like the glossy skin of an apple, but deep inside the fruit where seeds are harbored. There is no writer more capable of picking out those seeds and exposing all their secret tastes and poisons than Oates herself, as brilliantly demonstrated in these 6 stories. Reveling in the uncanny and richly in conversation with other creative minds, Night-Gaunts and Other Tales of Suspense stands at the crossroads of sex, violence, and longing, and asks us to interrogate the intersection of these impulses within ourselves." Okay. And once again, I'm a fan of Joyce Callowes now. I wasn't always, and I'm not always still, but I've grown to appreciate her a lot. But once again, I would not be the ideal person that I would want to review this at 800 words. That person, oh, I don't know, his name would rhyme with Merrick, Marl, and Manderson. All right, so it's straight fiction so far. We're gonna forge ahead here. We're gonna keep going. What is this next one? Oh my. Okay. All right. This is not fiction. Finally, we've broken that string. This comes out today. It's from the University of Chicago Press, and it's Churchill's War in Words, his best quotes. It's a little quote book of Winston Churchill. So virtually unreviewable, but probably of interest. Again, I can think, not in terms of reviewing, but I can think that of 5 or 6 people who would want this a lot more than I would, who would love it a lot more than I would. So I'll just have to go about putting out feelers to those people. All right, so let's move on. We had 3 made-up stories and then a quote book of Winston Churchill, of all people. So let's move on. Let's see what we have here next. Oh my. Okay. Okay, this is a novel that comes out in late March. Boy, I'm sensing a theme here. This is naturally the way that an editor and a book reviewer thinks. In addition to a book fan, I'm also a book journal editor and a book reviewer. So you automatically start casting around in your mind when you see these things. Not only what you have read that's similar to the book that you've received, but also whether or not you can review it, where you can pitch it if you think you can, and who might review it better than you, and whether or not they might, and whether or not you might sound them out to do it. This latest one is by James Nardi, and it's called Discoveries in the Garden. It's full of artwork all throughout. Just wonderful. But also, in addition to artwork, helpful stuff, graphs and charts and whatnot. Okay, so this looked like it's half practical gardening advice and half stories from the garden. And I don't garden. So I could read it as, a science fiction work. Or I could use it as a prompt to start gardening. I have often wanted to do that. And it's late February now, but it's pretty clear from the weather patterns that I have seen so far and the satellite data that I get to watch on my iPad, it's pretty clear that this winter is not going to be severe and is all but over, which means that I could do preliminary work for a little patch of garden right now. All of the tutorials on YouTube that I watch say that now is the perfect time to get a lot of stuff done. In fact, that in only a little while it will be the crucial time to get a lot of stuff done. Otherwise, there's not much you'll be able to do in your garden. I'm tempted. Every year, I'm tempted. Anyway, what have we got here? Leading us through the garden gate, James Nardi reveals the extraordinary daily lives and life cycles of a quick-growing, widely available, and very accommodating group of study subjects, garden plants. Through the close observations and simple experiments we can all replicate at home, we learn the hidden stories behind how these plants grow, flower, set seeds, and produce fruits, as well as the vital role dead and decomposing plants play in nourishing the soil. Wow. Okay. I love reading gardening books, just like I love reading cooking books, even though I can't cook. So I will certainly read this. It's due for the spring. All right, let's move on here. Already got a bit of variety showing here. Who knows what's going to keep... Please let this be March. It is. It's early March. Okay. This is edited by James Crawford. This is a finished copy of a new anthology called Bloody Scotland. Perfectly timed for March Mystery Madness. A BookTube-wide event coming up in March in which we all celebrate murder mysteries. I'm hoping that you will all participate. Set aside one book on your monthly TBR as a murder mystery. Or if you love mysteries, make a video. Make 2 videos. I am helping to host. It's my very first hosting gig on BookTube. And I love murder mysteries, so I couldn't be happier about it. And this is perfect. I am now, as I think I mentioned in an earlier video, I am now watching carefully all of the new murder mysteries. They're not just ordinary books in my halls anymore. I'm paying close attention to them because I'm going to be thinking, reading, and talking about mysteries all through the month of March. In fact, I've decided, sort of quasi, I don't have complete control over this, but I'm leaning towards trying to make half my reading in the month of March murder mysteries. Just a huge number of murder mysteries. We shall see. But Bloody Scotland. So this has stories by Lynn Anderson, Christopher Brookmeyer, Anne Cleves, Stuart McBride, Val McDermott, Denise Mina. I know some of these names. I don't know others. And, of course, the one that I know is Ian Rankin. I guess he's not in here. But, wow. Okay, great. All right. So, March Mystery Madness. I've made a separate pile of books out in the other room to sort of segregate the murder mysteries that I get for March as they come in. And that pile's getting bigger. So what have we got? What have we got here? Oh, my. Oh, goodness. Oh, isn't this something? Okay. This also comes out in early March, right around the corner. This is Undiscovered Country, a novel inspired by the lives of Eleanor Roosevelt and Lorena Hickok, the journalist with whom Eleanor Roosevelt had a lifelong passionate friendship. And this is by Kelly O'Connor McNeese, as a sort of a photo cover. In 1932, New York City's top reporter Lorena Hickok starts each day with a front-page byline and finishes it by swigging bourbon and planning her next big scoop. But an assignment to cover FDR's campaign and write a feature on his wife Eleanor turns Hick's hard-won independent life on its ear. Soon her work and the secret entanglement with the new First Lady will take her from New York to Washington to Scotts Run, West Virginia, where impoverished coal miner families wait in fear that the New Deal's promise of hope will pass them by. So this is another novel about Lorena Hickok and Eleanor Roosevelt. And when I say another, I mean that's also Amy Bloom's new book, White Houses, which I was working up a review for it. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I don't know, this is another one, so and it's due soon, so I'll have to read it and see how they compare. All right, let's see what's next here. What is this next one? Oh my, okay, all right. Oh, all right, this comes out in June. This is the closest we've come to a Steve book so far. This is by Konrad Jarausch. Konrad Jarausch. Is this translated? Is this translated work? No. It's Broken Lives, How Ordinary Germans Experienced the 20th Century. Wow. Okay, so the whole of the 20th century. That's a tall order for such a short book. Drawing on 6 memoirs by the generation of Germans born in the 1920s, the author chronicles the unforgettable stories of people who lived through the Third Reich, World War II, the Holocaust, and Cold War partition, but also participated in Germany's astonishing post-war recovery, reunification, and rehabilitation. Written decades after the events, these testimonies, many of them unpublished, look back on the mistakes of young people caught up in the Nazi movement. In many, early enthusiasm turns to deep disillusionment as the price of complicity with brutal dictatorship. fighting at the front, aerial bombing at home, murder in concentration camps, becomes clear. Wow. Okay, so it's a quasi-oral history. And it comes out in the summer. Okay. Great. All right. Okay. Well, let's move on. That has a lot of promise as a book to write about. That would be something I'd want to write about. What is this next one? Oh. Okay. All right. This is from Oxford University Press. Okay, this comes out in July. This is a new edition of the Oxford Companion to the Brontës. In the new edition, you'll find a new foreword by Claire Harmon, award-winning writer and literary critic, and recent biographer of Charlotte Brontë. More than 2,000 contributions from Brontë specialists from around the world, and an A to Z format with extensive cross-referencing designed to help you go through the whole thing. So it's more of a reference work than a read-through, but I'm going to read it through anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. Oh my, very nice. Somebody very nicely stuck in a little brochure, a new and noteworthy brochure from Oxford University Press. Very nice. And then, okay, I was right. We have not one, not two, but 3 boxes to end this hideously long mail haul. So what is this first one? What is this first one? Oh, okay. This is the finished copy, very pretty, of Court of Lyons by Jane Johnson, which I think we saw on this channel before. Sometimes at the lowest point in your life, fate will slip you a gift. Yeah, let's look at that while I read this. That's just what Kate Fordham learns in Court of Lyons, a stunning new novel of exotic adventure and a quest for redemption, from Jane Johnson, the British editor for literary luminaries like George R.R. Martin, Robin Hobb, and Dean Koontz. Kate has fled to the beautiful sunlit city of Granada, the ancient capital of the Moors in Spain, to escape terrible personal trauma. In the city, she scrapes by with an unfulfilling job in a busy bar. One day, in the glorious gardens of the Alhambra, once home to Sultan Abu Abdallah Muhammad, Kate finds a scrap of paper hidden in one of the ancient walls. Yes, we did read about this before. Upon it, in strange symbols, has been inscribed a message from another era. The message has lain undiscovered since before the fall of Granada in 1492, when the city was surrendered to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. Born of love in a time of danger and desperation, the fragment will be a catalyst that changes Kate's life forever. Wow. Okay, this is due in early March, so this is a March book. I have the advanced copy, but I haven't read it. And the one or two of you out there who are absolute dyed-in-the-wool history wonks will have noticed a tiny factual error in that publicity description. But still, it doesn't matter. So she's been an agent to these high-powered people, but is this her first book? I don't know. No, it's not. No, not anywhere close. Okay, good. And then let's move on here to this next one. Another finished copy of something. Oh, great. Okay, Nicola Tallis, Elizabeth's rival, in the finished copy, The Tumultuous Life of the Countess of Leicester. A kinswoman to Elizabeth I, Lettice Knollys, had begun the Queen's glittering reign, basking in favor and success. It was an honor that she would enjoy for 2 decades. However, on the morning of September 1st, 1578, Lettice made a fateful decision. When the Queen learned of it, the consequences were swift. Lettice had dared to marry without the Queen's consent. But worse, her new husband was Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester, the Queen's favourite and one-time suitor. Though she would not marry him herself, Elizabeth was fiercely jealous of any woman who showed an interest in Leicester. Knowing that she would likely earn the Queen's enmity, Lettice married Leicester in secret, leading to her permanent banishment from court. Elizabeth never forgave the new countess for what she perceived to be a devastating betrayal, and Lettice permanently forfeited her favour. She had become not just Queen Elizabeth's adversary, she was now her rival. And it was a little more visceral than that, because, well, we don't know for sure, but there is a reliable historical tradition that says that when Elizabeth learned of this, she punched lettuce knolls. So, I don't know if that's true, but it seems like a Tudor thing to do. So this also comes out in early March. So all of a sudden, in one mail haul, I have an enormous pile of new books for March. And then we'll do this last one, and then we'll wrap it up here. Because I don't even know how many videos this is today. I promise this will be the last one. What is this next one? Another finished copy of something. Oh! Jonathan Miles, St. Petersburg, in a lovely finished copy. Look at that. Madness, Murder, and Art on the Banks of the Neva. Oh my. From Peter the Great to Putin, this is the unforgettable story of St. Petersburg, one of the most magical, menacing, and influential cities in the world. I can attest to the magical part. I visited St. Petersburg a couple of times, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's always felt like an impossible metropolis, rising from the freezing mists and flooded marshlands on the western edge of Russia. It was a new capital in an old country, established in 1703 by the sheer will of its charismatic founder, the homicidal megalomaniac Peter the Great. Oh, come on! That's a bit of a swipe, don't you think? I mean, yes, he was a homicidal egomaniac, but he was other things too. I can't believe that. Its charismatic founder, the homicidal megalomaniac Peter the Great. Its dazzling yet unhinged reputation was quickly cemented by the sadistic dominion of its early rulers. This city, in its successive incarnations, St. Petersburg, Petrograd, Leningrad, and once again St. Petersburg, has been a place of perpetual contradiction. Oh my, very nice. Don't tell me, let me guess. This is going to be March. Oh God, yes it is. It's early March. Okay. Wow. Wonderful. All right. Well, this Steve Pyramid is going to be a bit of a test for the old metacarpals. Let's see. We have a big book on St. Petersburg. Then Tudor history, Elizabeth's rival about the Countess of Leicester. And that description leaves out a key element. I mean, I understand what Nicola Tallis is wanting to do. She's wanting to make this seem like, I mean, sexual romantic jealousy is a great hook for a book. But Lettuce was an assistant to the Queen. She was a lady in waiting. She had free access to the highest realms of the government. And Robert Dudley was, let's just say his family history was a trifle vexed when it came to the crown. It wasn't just feminine jealousy that made Elizabeth furious that these two married. It was a marriage of state, almost. As close as you could get, without either one of them being in line for the throne. She had every right to be furious. Then Court of Lyons, in a finished copy. Then The Oxford Companion to the Brontës. Broken Lives, about ordinary Germans living through a century that was amazing. I mean, the German 20th century was amazing. Then Undiscovered Country, the second novel of the season, of the love affair between Lorena Hickok and Eleanor Roosevelt. Then Bloody Scotland, a collection of murder mysteries set in Scotland. Then Discoveries in the Garden, just a garden memoir with lots of practical sides to it. Then Churchill's War in Words, a Churchill quotation collection. Night-Gaunts by Joyce Carol Oates. Demigods by Eliza Robertson. And Kudus by Rachel Cusk. So there you go. Look at that. Goodness gracious. So this is, I guess, on BookTube just all around a very, very busy Mail Monday. So I'm going to go sort through these and play around with them. But I'll be back. But not today. I promise I'm going to give you a break, and I will come back tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.